And then you partner with them on making a plan, but also realizing that it's more of a birth wish, not a plan. Birth is so unpredictable. There's so many different factors that can happen.
All right, thank you for joining me today. Today we have Elizabeth Presta, and she is a doula and the host of the podcast Miraculous Mamas. So I'm so excited to have her here today because we've never had a doula on the show before. So welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, we're so excited. So can you just tell us all about you and then what you do and just kind of what your job entails?
I grew up in the Midwest, but spent a big portion of my life in Vegas, which is where I started to get passionate about birth work. I was in my early 20s, and Vegas has the highest C-section rate in the country, which is 40%. And I was taking a college course, and I ended up, due to my sister getting pregnant and she decided to have a home birth, I wrote a research paper on home birth versus hospital birth. And it started just really getting me passionate about it. And my friends started having babies, and I just saw some things that were happening in their birth that didn't quite seem right to me. So I learned what a doula was. I'm like, oh my gosh, I kind of want to do this. So 2012 was when I took my first doula course. So about 7 years ago. And doulas, they provide emotional and physical support to a woman throughout labor and delivery, and also help educate the woman, provide resources during that time leading up to it so that you feel more prepared and knowing your options going into it. So I took my first course, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I love this work so much. Started to get really passionate about it, and just learning some of the statistics of things that are happening in the United States were really, alarming, because over the last 20 years in all the other high income nations, the maternal death rate has decreased, except for in the United States, it has increased. So it's like, why are more women dying in the United States going into labor than women in other high income nations when we're supposed to be this amazing medically advanced country, right? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of really what brought me to where I am today. Is I think over the years, I've kind of practiced it on and off. I did a lot of traveling. I got to see some birth in other places, and it was really cool. And I took a few jobs overseas, and then over the last couple of years, I've kind of settled into the doula work and becoming a lot more passionate about it, which is also why I wanted to do the podcast, because I wanted it to be a place where people came to learn and to feel a sense of community. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I've just realized doing this work is that motherhood can be so isolating. With the social media presence that there is today, it can do one or two things. It can bring people together, so you realize, hey, I'm not alone. This mom's going through it too. Or it also can bring that sense of comparison, where it's like, this person has it all together and my life's a disaster. And comparison just robs people of joy. So wanting to create a community where people can come and see that others are like them and that they don't feel alone, and not to cover up the mess, and just kind of learn so that we can be better and empower each other, and to just create that community and be like, hey, listen, you did things a different way than I chose to do things, but that's okay. I love you and I support you, and I'm so glad that we're in this motherhood journey together.
We have a private Facebook group where the community of moms come in, and it's so true, the number of moms that feel like shame for doing something a certain way. And so now it's so cool that you have a platform that people are able to share their birth stories and kind of what they went through. And so into more so specific. So when someone reaches out to you, what kind of process do you go through to kind of find out who they are, what they want?
Yeah, well, I usually always have an initial consultation. I think that it's really important that you're a good fit. Just some people are going to fit naturally together better than others. If you go to a yoga class and you might not like how one person teaches it, but you like how somebody else teaches it, you're just going to have a better connection and chemistry with somebody. So it's important for me to have that, and that we both have that we both feel that we both want to work with each other. And then learning kind of what what they know and what type of birth plan or experience they want to have. I've had clients who have had home births and people who have had hospital births, and people are like, I want an unmedicated hospital birth, and people are like, oh, I'm getting the epidural as soon as I need it. And I've also done a couple of cesarean births. So just talking to them and kind of how they view birth and what their expectations, I guess, are. And then you partner with them on making a plan, but also realizing that it's more of a birth wish, not a plan. Birth is so unpredictable. There's so many different factors that can happen. And you also have to be prepared for that. So you can't just be like, okay, this is how I'm going to go into it. This is what's going to happen. It's like, that's going to be awesome if that does. But hey, like, let's talk about if scenario A happens, if scenario B happens, if scenario C happens, because almost every single person I talked to who has had their first C-section, like, had never thought about it, had never like learned about it. So when it happened, it was so like, oh my gosh, like, I never thought that I would be in this situation and not knowing how to handle it, instead of being like, okay, here's the research, here's the statistics, I know that I'm safe, I know that, you know, I get to meet my baby in 30 minutes. Just looking at the positive side. And you can also have a birth plan for that. Like, in case of a C-section, there's such thing called a gentle C-section. You still have options. You still have things you can request. So I help people work on their birth plan. I never want to like give my opinion on certain things. It's just asking questions like, do you want to do delayed cord clamping or not? And if they're like, oh, well, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, well, here's like some resources, do some research and let me know. Just the different options that you can have. Do you want to do intermittent monitoring? And having them do their own research and asking the questions to make them think about how they want to put the plan together. So that's kind of like how it starts, and then there's just some phone calls and a couple of appointments leading up to it. And then when they go into labor, I either meet them at their home or hospital. Sometimes even with hospital births, you meet at home and labor at home for a while before you go to the hospital. And then I stay until a couple hours after delivery.
Heard stories where doctors kind of just came in and told them what their birth plan was. They kind of felt like they had no voice. So I think that's so powerful what you do, giving women that voice. So at what stage in a woman's pregnancy do you think they should start considering or start looking into having a doula?
I've been hired at all different stages. I've been hired the week of, and like, we didn't even get to meet in person. We had a phone call and she went into labor early, and like 2 days later I was at the hospital with her.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's pretty crazy sometimes, but I mean, I would say in your second trimester, end of second trimester-ish, that's when a lot of times people will start to take birthing classes and look into, whether they want to take hypnobirthing or informed pregnancy, depending on what they want. And that's usually around the time I'd say that a lot of people start thinking about having a doula, because it gives you time to plan and prepare. And there's also, I give clients exercises and things to practice as well to help get their body ready to prepare them, and for the partner too, to better help during the labor process.